Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of the enemy are deceitful. I would rather have a friend who, even though it's going to hurt me and it's going to hurt them, and, I would rather have someone who is willing to be faithful to me and tell me what I need to hear than have someone who's going to go around beating around the bush, just let me live life the way I think it should be lived and not be people helping me to serve the Lord.
Welcome back, Young America. This is Young America. I was going to say it was Shadow Band, but it's not Shadow Band.
No,
it's definitely Young America.
Yeah.
So, welcome back. As you may be able to tell, I have new equipment, and it is awesome. I am loving it. New mic, new stand, new headphones, and new...
Oh, it came with a stand too?
Recordy thingy. Well, I mean,
nice.
The boom arm, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so
man,
it's really cool. Yeah, I know. It costs a pretty penny, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, enough about that.
Mm-hmm.
But so today we're going to be doing an interview, and Jacob Litke is the wonderful interviewee, even if that's
yours truly.
It up. But
or should I say,
yours truly? Or did it work?
Oh boy.
We're going to have a lot of fun on this episode.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a little different episode. I got some questions written down for Jacob, and so we are going to get into it. They're going to be they're going to be fun questions.
There's a pretty wide variety, honestly.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. Well, so I guess we're going to get into it. So, question number 1. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
I was thinking about this one earlier, and the answer is, I don't really know. I mean, because I was going to ask you what you think, because to me, I'm a very upfront person. Like, if I'm having a bad day or a good day, you can just tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
so I
think people, you come across as, I don't know, proud maybe, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, you're like one of the most humble guys I've ever known. And you just have this air of like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to get it done, and this is how it's going to work. And it's not necessarily a sense of pride. It's just, we need to get this done, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's determination.
Some of it is, I think. But at the same time, it's kind of my cop-out, because it used to be that I had no confidence at all. And then I came to the ranch, and it was like everyone had confidence. So I just kind of, I don't know. I picked it up, I guess. And so now it's like, all right, people, here's the plan. And also, to some people, I come across kind of, Jason will always tell me that he feels like he can tell me stuff because I can't beat him up. You know what I mean? And I think, I think a lot of, I don't know how many people have felt that way, but there have been several people that I've known in my lifetime, which has been short, but who have told me things that, they wouldn't tell anybody else, or they feel like they can talk to me, which is just interesting, because it seems like, the people that I want to talk to me don't. And the people that, I want everybody to talk to me. That's fine. If I can listen and be a help, then great.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of kind of funny, It's like, whatever. If I can be a blessing, then great. If not, I'll try to shut up.
All right. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite childhood memory?
Yikes. There's so many things, and it's so hard to remember everything all at once. But
yeah, that's very true.
one of the things I remember most is when I was 7, I got this giant Lego castle for Christmas, and we were moving that year. And I really wanted to build it, but we were about to move, so Mom was like, no, you can't build it. So I was super pumped when I finally did. And that's what got me started on Legos for a very, very long time. So that's a good memory. there's lots of other things too, butchering chickens or apple picking or, singing in concerts. Concerts are the bomb. I tell you what.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Cool. Yeah, it's very difficult to remember your childhood. I don't know for what reason, but it's just like it disappears. You're like, what?
I always wonder if I'll remember more stuff, or at least things more clearly, certain things more clearly when I'm older. I don't know. That's probably not true, but
I think it'll come back
possible.
when you have kids yourself, because you'll look at it and
That
you're like,
makes
oh man,
sense,
I
yeah.
remember doing that. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what in the
yeah.
world? So
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but I mean, that's
I
what
thought
I'd
of
imagine.
one of when I was in high school. One of the favorite things that I've done was I got to be a cowboy at the ranch, and that was a big part of my life and my ego for a long time. Was hats and boots and chaps and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that was a blast. It was hard work, but I learned a lot from it, so it was good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So question number 3 is, what is your biggest failure and what did you learn from that experience? It's a big question.
See, this is a hard question too, because it's like,
it really is.
Because when I look back at life, I mean, there's things that didn't end up happening or maybe didn't go the way I thought, but there was never an absolute abject failure. Like, dude, you screwed up and you're going to pay now. I mean, there's been things that haven't felt good maybe, or things that, I thought were going to happen that weren't. Like, I remember back when I was, goodness, how old was I? I was probably somewhere between 13 and 15. I was asked to sing a solo with the Greenville Chorale, which I know that doesn't mean anything really to anybody, but, that would have been my second time. And then I was also asked to be in this play. But then, just the way things worked out and the way politics worked and the way, it just played out and my voice changed and everything, that didn't end up happening. And that kind of, it did not end up happening. Yeah, it did. Yeah,
No,
I know. It
your
went from
voice
here
changed.
down to here. Yeah, I did. I couldn't sing soprano anymore, at least. So I can still sing second soprano, though. Yeah. But, so anyways, I mean, that was just something that wasn't a failure. It was just like, now wasn't the time.
Yeah.
That wasn't what needed to be done right then. So that's one of the things where you say, all right, God, that's what you wanted. So we'll go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And we hit those stages multiple times in life. And so you're just going to have to make sure. And I know, see, and I say you, I mean me. I'm going to have to make sure that I have the right attitude about things, which is, granted, it's hard to do. And I mess up. I mess up daily, even to this day. And I wish that wasn't true. But the fact of the matter is, God is good and he knows what he's doing. So let him work his plan and you follow it.
Right.
That's your job.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be? And these are all
serving the Lord with every bone in my body.
Yeah. That sums it up.
Yeah. And I would say too, this is my challenge to others, is I want to be with people who want to serve the Lord with every bone in their body too. So if you want to come, let's go. If not, I know where I'm going. So let's get it done.
Right. What is the best compliment that you've ever gotten? That's a weird one, but
yeah. Well, when I read, because context, Joe sent these questions to me earlier, and I didn't think a whole lot about them. I mean, I looked at them, but I haven't studied them out, so I knew that was coming eventually. There's actually 2, and they kind of happened back to back. One was, and you'll probably find this interesting, but that I had a good sense of humor, which no one had ever told me that before. So I was like, well, you're the only one who ever told me that, so I don't know if that's true or not, but we'll go with it. And then the second one was somebody told me that I had a good personality. So that meant a lot to me. That was nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do or not, but
the audience can be the judge from what they've seen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is the best insult that you've gotten?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was that comment that we got on Facebook on that reel. Remember that? But I
Yes,
refuse
I
to say that
definitely
out
remember
loud
that.
on the podcast.
Yeah.
So
I
if you're
would.
curious, go look at our reels and search it out, and you'll see. It was pretty entertaining, actually. I thought it was funny.
Or if you know us personally, you can ask us that too. But
yeah,
yeah, you could also just look it up, because that would be awkward.
Yeah.
Anyways,
moving on.
You're right. How would your parents describe what you do?
Like, okay, so here's my question with that, just to clarify. Describe what I do, like in life, or like with the podcast, or with school, or
Everything, anything,
everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way I can think to answer that question is that my parents know that I want to do right, and they support me in what I do, and they don't because I was talking to mom we went on a walk because I had to walk out my frustrations. And sometimes you just got to go on a walk. But I asked mom about that, so I was like, what do you think? Like, what do I say here? And she's like, well, me and your dad don't understand necessarily everything that goes into the podcast, and they don't get how it all works or how it all work out. But she also knows that I've got a brain, and that I'm serving the Lord as best I can, and that they're going to support me in following the Lord. So that's my mom always has told me that as long as I'm doing what God wants me to do, I can do whatever I put my mind to, which is true.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my parents' philosophy about me, is from what I know and understand, is that they support me and they're behind me. And it sounds kind of cliche, but they love me and they believe in me, and they're going to be there every step of the way, which is awesome because I need them. They've seen, you ever think about that? Your parents have seen so much more life than you have, and have so much more perspective. And of course, no one knows everything. Only God knows everything, but they know a lot more than I do. So, it's nice to be able to ask questions and them to be able to lovingly say, what they've learned too. Appreciate your parents and those who are older and around you, learn from the people in your church, and learn from your parents and your grandparents, because they may not understand all the technologies that you and I do, but they've seen a lot more life, and people haven't changed. So take their advice.
What is a funny story your family tells about you that you would like to share?
There's not a whole lot of funny story. The main thing that comes to mind is when I was little, I used to try to flush my socks down the toilet, but I don't think that's really unusual.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
That is
you're
very
like
unusual.
You're like 2 or 3, and you're just like, ooh, it's a sock. Ooh, there's a toilet. You just watch it go round and round, and mom had to rescue a lot of socks. But
forget about the socks being lost in the washer. We all know where they are. They're down the toilet because of Jacob.
Like, man, why is the drain plugged up? Like, That
is very
that's the best
interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. Goodness. Why have I not known this?
Glad I entertain you.
Oh, yeah. It was very entertaining. Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. So now if I have a sock missing, I'm just going to blame it on you.
Yeah. Like, Jacob showed up in the middle of the night.
What's your favorite holiday movie?
I mean, there's a lot of good ones.
Well, I guess first of all, what's your best Goodness, English is hard. What's your favorite?
The best holiday?
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I know it's classic and cliche and everything, but Christmas is definitely pretty high up on the list. I would say Thanksgiving after that, and then Easter. Easter's pretty high. I mean, that's like the best day for a Christian in the whole wide world, because Jesus rose from the dead and conquered sin. But I would say for positive, definitely Christmas, because that's concert season for the choir, and concerts are awesome. They're a lot of work, but they're awesome and beautiful, and the whole house is lit up and it's cozy.
I can testify.
Yeah.
Well, that
We
was
made you help put
Thanksgiving,
it up.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just a good time of year, and
Yeah, I would
there's
have to
a
agree.
lot of pressure, but it's also kind of relaxing at the same time. So it's a good time.
What has been your favorite job?
I would say, I mean, I've had a lot of good jobs for sure, but probably the best job is working with my dad doing trim carpentry when I'm not doing school, which right now I do school a lot. But um yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to, and you get that quality time with your dad that you may not always get, because you're at home and he's working, but then you get to go work together. And eventually, what's been the coolest part recently is like I'm actually finally getting to the point where I can know what I'm talking about a little bit and be able to sort of, in a sense, not perform, but do well and go fast and get the job done right and be at his level, in a sense. Now, I haven't lived as long as he's been doing this, so I don't know jack squat hardly, but I know a lot more than I used to. And it's just fun to be able to be on the same level and to have that sort of connection of, we can show up to a job and get it done and know we can depend on each other in that way. So that's been the best part, probably.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of good jobs, You learn things from all of them.
Yeah, that's very true. What has been your least favorite job?
Well, I've worked at a couple different ranches, but one of them, and none of my jobs have ever been like the work was bad, like the work itself. And it's not that the people were bad, but in this particular case, the way the autonomy and the authority structure was set up, it was just really confusing and unclear, at least to me.
Yeah.
And so that was just kind of frustrating. But really, I've never had a bad job, to be honest. All of my jobs, I've always been pretty solid. Some of them I like better than others, but you have to consider, even the job that I would consider the work I liked the least, washing dishes, I had a good time washing dishes. And there was a whole bunch of other guys to be nuts with while we were washing dishes. So it was a good time, It was definitely a growing experience.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I would tell him a lot of things. But, goodness, now I have to sum up all the thoughts in my brain into one thing. There's a lot rolling around.
It doesn't have to be one necessarily.
I can have two. I mean, the first thing I would say is don't be stupid.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a given, but...
Right. But at the same time, it's like I've said this before. I don't know if I said it on the podcast or not. I can't remember. And I know we've talked about it before. It's like, if you could go back and knowing what you know now, even with just 2 more years added on, I'm 20 now. I mean, that's only 2 years since I was 18. But the amount of things that I've learned, and I'm in the process of learning now, if I could go back and tell all that to that stupid idiot, imagine where we could be today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, that's not really, God has you right where he wants you, learning the things he wants you to learn when he wants you to learn them, not before. So it's okay. But, one thing I would say to sum up everything that I think is to be sober-minded. When I was 18, freshman year of college, I kind of went into it with this is my time to experiment. This, I'm going to have fun. This will be great. Which is fine. It's fine to have fun, and it's fine to live life. But there are things now that I kind of wish, it would have been smarter if I hadn't have done that, or hadn't have, thought that. You just have to be wise, really.
Yeah.
And if I had the maturity, which I don't have a lot of maturity, but I have more than I used to, and if I had the maturity I have now back then, things, It would just be different. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So, to people, if you're younger than us, I know we're not much older than you probably, but have wisdom, be mature, and use your brain. You don't have to experiment with everything the world throws at you.
It's not wise to experiment with the world has, for that fact of the matter. What are the who are the three most important individuals that had the most influence in your life?
That is a really hard question, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of people who've had a lot of influence on my life, for sure. I'd say obviously number one, my parents. They have a lot of influence on my life. And it's nice because I can talk to them about the stuff that I think and I feel, and they'll listen to me and not tear me down. Like sometimes, like I get this there are certain people, well, that'd be an overgeneralization, but sometimes there are people that I've met who have the sort of I'm better than you attitude, or you're dumb and stupid, and why are you thinking that? That's ridiculous. Why would you ever think that? And my parents are in no way like that. They're my parents, obviously, and they guide me in the right direction, but they also listen to me and sympathize with me, and try to understand where I'm coming from. And that's a big blessing to have parents who care and listen. I mean, that's kind of one group, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to think, people who've had it. I mean, there's a lot of people who've had major impact on my life recently. I would say probably the next, and this may be as far as I can get, but is my friends. You and Jason, and just I have I don't have a lot of friends, but I got enough to influence me in the right direction, and friends who are willing to say what needs to be said to help me go the right way. And that is super important. Proverbs says the wounds of faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of the enemy are deceitful. I would rather have a friend who, even though it's going to hurt me and it's going to hurt them, and I would rather have someone who is willing to be faithful to me and tell me what I need to hear than have someone who's going to go around beating around the bush, just let me live life the way I think it should be lived and not be people helping me to serve the Lord. So I appreciate having friends who are willing to stand by me and do what's right. And, you and Jason, we're doing all this media stuff together. We're building businesses together. And that means a lot to me. And that is a lot of my life goes into that at this point, and so that's had a big influence on me. And it's encouraging to have guys that I can work with. And it's encouraging to have guys who are my friends who can listen to me and I can listen to them. And I know that if I called them at 3 a.m. or they called me, their phones might be on vibrate, so they may not hear it, but they'll be calling me as soon as they get up and be grabbing the shovel and the gun.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. That's what I would say. I mean, those are the main. And there's a lot of other people who've influenced me here and there and whatever in my life, but I would say those are the two main ones. I know that's not 3, but that's what I got.
Yeah, that's fine. If you could have coffee, black coffee, of course, with any historical figure, who would it be?
The first person that comes to my head would be George Washington. He's a very interesting character. I mean, like everything that I feel like I'm learning right now about humility and leadership, probably some other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. Like he is the classic American example from my understanding. So I think that would be really cool just to be able to have coffee and not talk about Like, I wouldn't want to talk about, oh, you've done this and you've done that and you're so cool. I want to know, this is what I think and what I'm learning. Can you give me, your advice, your take on it? That would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people, I mean, the only other person that came to my mind when I first read the question was Joseph Pulitzer. But that's just because I've studied him for a while and he's very intriguing. He's not a very nice guy to be around. And I'm not sure I would want to be influenced by him. But just to meet that kind of a character would be interesting, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If you randomly got $10 million, what would you spend it on? I mean, it could be $1 for that matter.
Yeah. Well, see, there's a difference between what I would do with a mil and 10 mil,
Okay, yeah, go for it. 10 million.
So if it was 10 mil, first I would pay off the house and make sure my parents live well, have things that they've never had before. Then after that, I would probably give 2 mil to my church because we're trying to build a church and I want a pretty church if at all possible. So I'll do what it takes, Yeah. And, we're never going to have the money to build a cathedral, but to me, I don't know. I just think if I had the money, I would build a beautiful church. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so let's say that's probably 3 mil. So then another 2 mil would go to the Bill Rice Ranch because they need it in a lot of ways.
They need it. Yeah.
The next 2 mil would go to the Academy of Arts and Logos Theater because I know you don't know who they are, but they need it for, just there's a lot of ministries that have a lot of needs.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have the money to give it, then by George, let's give it away. I don't need it. Let's see, where am I at? That's what, 7 mil? So another 2 million would be to the TW Quarter Circle Ranch because they need to buy their own property and have nice quality stuff for their ministry. And then the other million, I don't know, I'd probably, at this point in my life, pour it into Shadow Band and the other projects that we're working on because that's what's going to bring the next million to put into whatever else needs to be done.
This is an interesting one. If you had to write a book by tomorrow, what would you write it on?
Man, there's so many things. It would definitely be about some of the things that I've been learning about recently. Probably, I think the thing that could sum up all the things I've been learning is learning to follow Jesus no matter what. And not, even if you can't see the path and you can barely see the step, all you need to know is how to take it. And you need to learn how to wait because waiting is following. It's just you're just going a little slower than you felt like you were earlier. That's all. That doesn't change anything. That doesn't change the fact that you need to know to do what you know to be right now. And whatever the consequence is later doesn't matter. God works everything for good, and he's going to lead you where you need to go. So follow him, trust him, and have faith, and be humble about it, and go from there. That's what I would write a book about.
Sounds like a solid book. I'd read it.
I wish there was a book out there like that.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Maybe there is. I don't know.
You could be the author.
In my spare time.
Right. What is your biggest pet peeve?
Goodness. That's hard. I mean, probably the thing that's been driving me nuts the most is myself recently, but well, one thing, and this may sound prideful, but it's just the truth, is people who say one thing but do the opposite.
Yeah.
If you're going to tell me that you're going to serve God, but you don't act like it, then that makes you a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just true. If you tell me that you're going to stick by me or stick by someone or do something and you don't keep your word, then what does that say about you? I want to make sure, and really all these things are just things that I want to make sure that I do in my own life. It's not, I can't hold this against anybody. No one's ever done it to me. It's just one of those things that, like, every now and then I see it in other people, and that does bug me. But the fact is, you can't change other people. You can just change you. So deal with you and leave the rest up to God. But, for me, I want to make sure that if I tell you, Joe, that I'm going to do something, then I want to make sure I do it. And if I fail to do it, I want you to be like, hey, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do it. If I say I want to serve God, but then I turn around and it's obvious that I'm not serving God and I'm doing what I want instead of what he wants, then I want someone to point out and say, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And that's the whole goal of life, is to serve God and keep your word. So that's probably my pet peeve, is people who don't keep their word.
And then the last question is, what do you think the world will be like in 5 years?
Yikes. See, that question, there's so many variables that could go into it. I mean, we could have, in 5 years, we could have World War III, we could have revival and turn the whole world around, or we could just still be slowly deteriorating. So the options are limitless. And I know what I prefer. I prefer to have worldwide revival, but I don't know that. I can pray for it, and I can do my best to serve God, but that's all I can do. The rest is in his hands. And as long as I'm following him and serving him to the best of my ability, that's all that matters.
We've been doing some brainstorming and thinking as far as Young America goes, and we've been thinking about starting to do historical people, and they may not even have to be historical necessarily, but basically just focusing on certain people and the characteristics that they had or they should have had, or just whatever it was, and
learning from their life.
Kind of almost like a history type thing, but I don't know,
better,
more applicable. Yeah. So that's what we've been thinking about, and I think that's what we're gonna go, the path that we're gonna go down. So I think that's about got it. So thanks for listening.
Be sure to check the video out on YouTube.
Oh yeah, we appreciate all of your support, and just keep spreading the word about the podcast. We want to see it grow, and hopefully we will. We're gonna try to do our best to make improvements and make clips and all that stuff, all the stuff that goes into it, but we want to see this grow, and we want to see people learning from this. So anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you.
Thank you for listening to Young America. If you enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with a friend. And if you want to see more content from us, please check the links in the description below and consider supporting the show. God bless America.